So I'm trying to get my mind off of losing my bird the other day. So I'm working on this old bass, and first thing, I couldn't adjust the pickup height because this foam, as you can see, it's not the same thickness, and where I needed it thick, it was the thin part, so I couldn't adjust the pickup height for either of these two center strings at all. I mean, it was way down there, you know, and this thing just had no output, and until I get that adjusted and play around with it a bit, I won't know whether I need to rewind these pickups or not. Now that's the good thing. This is a very old import bass back in the era where they were, you know, they called the lawsuit era. If you look at it, you know, it's a spitting image of a Fender Precision bass. It's got a brass nut, comes stock with that brass nut, and the frets I had to level, but they'd never been leveled before, and they weren't really that far off. And the truss rod works, and it adjusts the neck just fine. And then I had, this was in, the bridge was in really bad shape, so I took the saddles and the bridge down and had them professionally polished. And then I got some really high quality brass overcoat. It's a clear coat that I put on it. You just dip it in, let it drip off down in the lower corner here, and just kind of shake it a little bit and let it hang, and man, it just protected it really well, and you can't tell there was ever anything put on it. It's just, I gotta replace these screws, but I'll do that later. Some folks have told me just to let the screws be old like that, and they call it road worn, but I don't want road worn. I want it to look like it just came off the factory. And then I shielded the back of the pick guard with aluminum adhesive tape. It works just fine. You don't need copper. What you're trying to do here is create a Faraday cage to keep interference from getting into the pickups. And then I use conductive carbon paint, and then I tape it off first, and then I let it come up over the edge just a little bit in several spots so it makes contact with the aluminum foil, and that's what creates the Faraday cage. And as you can see, the whole cavity has been painted with it, and it's up over the edge in a few spots down here too, and it works really well. You know, it's quiet when you got the volume up. I don't care what amp you got it plugged in, you turn the volume all the way up. You know, I mean, even fluorescent lights don't really bother it. But these pickups are from the 80s, and I think it was pre-ceramic era, so I think these have alico magnets in it. They're pretty heavy pickups, and I don't know how many windings they have on there, but I'm going to play around with it, and as you can see, you just desolder right here and right here, and you can pop this on a winder and do whatever you want with it. Now, what I wanted to show you here is that's the way the pickups mount into the guitar. Kind of staggered the other way though, but what I wanted to show you here, I have this magnet, and it shows the polarity of your pole pieces. And in these precision basses like this P basses, the pickups are different. If you look, black is south and white is north. So this one right here is south. The magnet's south is facing up, and on this one, north is facing up. And that gives the pickups natural hum canceling anyway. So with the shielding and the way that P-bass pickups are naturally wound, I mean, it's just a very quiet bass. once you get it working right. And I prefer passive to active. I just don't like to mess with batteries, and I certainly don't like to have to modify the bass to put the battery in. So I would rather just wind the pickups for what output you want and select appropriate electronics. And you know, this wire's kind of small. I'd beef that up a little bit, and maybe a better capacitor. But these pots are just fine, and I'd probably go to a stereo pot. You know, they're just a little beefier and they give a little more bite on the jack when you plug it in. But anyways, I ordered new foam for under the pickups. I ordered 1/2 inch, so I can trim it down if I need to, but I think I'll need the whole 1/2 inch. You know, if you can actually trim the foam so that it naturally has the arc of the fretboard on it, so when you mount the pickups on there, if they're just a little bit high, you just compress the foam enough to get your pickup height right, and you've got just the right amount of dampening on the pickups. And I prefer, it seems, I don't have a lot of experience with basses. This is the first one I've ever set up, but from everything that I've read, you really don't want springs under the pickups, because there are certain styles of playing the bass, like slap bass, where you can get pretty violent on these these strings are quite huge anyways, and these are kind of like the bottom end of the kind of gauges that you can get for these basses. I mean, they can get, you know, huge, but you get to beating on these, and you don't have a whole lot of height over the pickups on a bass if you want decent output. And when you get to beating on them, you can beat on the pickups and change the pickup height if you just use springs. So that's why they use this foam, and as you can see, it's almost the full length of the pickup. When I do it, it's going to be just back maybe a 1/16 of an inch from the ends, you know, so it pretty much supports the whole pickup, so you can get pretty violent with it when I get done with it. And I think that's the way it should be, and it lends a certain dampening to the pickup that from what I've read reviews on, that's probably what I'd be looking for. You know, you don't want these vibrating to the point where they become microphonic, you know, so that's another reason for the foam. Okay, so right now I'm just waiting for the foam to show up, and then I can put this thing back together. And later on, I'll replace all these screws with some nice brass clean screws, and it'll be just like showroom new, only better. And then I'm going to play around with these pickups and kind of see where I need to go with them, and if I have to rewind them, I will. I have a winder, and I have shoot, what do we got? 42, 43, and 44 gauge magnet wire. The stuff that you know, you can solder the ends without stripping, and it's real easy to work with. And yeah, I'll just rewind these. The precision basses from Fender are reverse wound, and I need to look at, you know, which direction they wound each of the pole pieces. But they're reverse wound, and that also, you know, the fact that the magnets are flipped and they're reverse wound is what gives you that humbucking noise canceling, you know. So I'd have to look at that and see which way I need to wind these, and I think I'll just mark it on there so it's kind of permanent, so you always know which way to wind it. And it's 10,000 turns of 42 AWG magnet wire is what Fender uses from the factory on their precision basses. Now you can adjust that, you can stagger it, you can make one a little hotter, and, you know, because you know, it's all about mass and balancing, you know, the sound out. And but I need to play with it and find out you know, how this bass sounds under electronics to see what I need to do here. But there's no need for me to go spending, you know, hundreds and hundreds of dollars on some fancy set of pickups that for the era were made of the same construction, just wound different, and I can wind them. So all I need to do is find out what the specs were for this particular sound I want to try, and I can use YouTube to kind of gauge the different sounds and base that on what I'm hearing here, and then adjust the winding accordingly and the gauge of the wire, and just make my own custom pickups. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, tuning out. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you learned something. I sure did, just researching this. It's kind of fun. Later, dudes.